Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Empowering Voices. Today we have a special guest all over from Australia. We had to do it organized time-wise. It's super early for me, afternoon without kids for Santosh. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for being here. We made it. We tried several times, but we are here now. And we are ready to listen to your story. You will find a lot of inspiration in this, I can guarantee you. And I want to welcome you and please introduce yourself. First of all, I'm wearing a special t-shirt because I think it's really perfect for you. It's called Determination. I think you had a lot in your life of determination. So please introduce yourself and tell us your story.
First of all, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for getting up so early for me.
It's fine. It's worth it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know we had to go back and forth, but we finally made it. So I'm really, really glad, and thanks for all your patience. So I'm really glad to be here. And before I go on about me, I really love what you're doing, and I think it's quite a unique, IP and quite a unique idea. I love that, there's a little bit of love with the hand embroidery. I've already told you, but I really love that.
Thanks a lot. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. So with determination, I think. Even as a teenager, I always wanted to be a doctor, and I'm born in India, and I moved to Australia in 2008. So I always wanted to be a doctor, did that. I had my own practice, and I was running this practice as well. I was really the head of all this practice, and I was managing the whole center as a doctor. But at the same time, there was always a nudge that I didn't want to live in those. I love India and I love that cultural part, but the restriction part of that cultures, I just couldn't wait to break free.
I totally understand you. Been there, done that.
So I was determined. Yes, I see that you're from Italy and you had to do the same. And it's really hard to break ties because you can't always break ties, but you still kind of break them, in certain areas. So yeah, I did that. And all of a sudden, I found myself in Australia. Now I was waiting. And working in small restaurants, and I'm like, what am I doing here?
And I suppose the cultural shock was strong anyway, because although you were prepared, it's another world.
Yeah, it always is. I think it doesn't matter how prepared you are, when you're actually in the deep end, the experience is always different.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I took any course I could get, and I got enrolled into commercial cookery. I was like, yeah, that's fine. And then I think 18 months into the course, I was like, oh, this isn't what I want to do. I'm not, going to do the commercial cookery. I mean, I love cooking. I respect all the other people. It wasn't for me. And I knew that I loved the science, I loved the medical. So it was only 6 months, but so I wasn't worried about residency anymore. I was like, that's it, I'm going to change to nursing. So I actually did, swap to nursing, didn't worry about the residency. I called my dad and he's like, you are an idiot, just wait 6 months and you can get the residency. But they mean well. So I think that's how, once you're determined and once you know what you want, clarity and determination go hand in hand. So I was very clear what I wanted.
Yeah, clarity is power, definitely. I agree with you.
So I was determined that I'm going to do something I like and love, and that's what I ended up doing. So I did nursing, and then I, did the management roles. I did the nursing, obviously, on the ground first, and then I excelled in the higher rankings. And
in reality, you were already a doctor. So there's a bit of a paradox here, right? Because you had to start all over again. You tried another path, definitely didn't work because you had a different call, right? But still, with your determination, you start all over again. But you were a doctor already. So you knew where you wanted to go. Yeah.
Yes. And if I was to, intertwine it with determination, definitely you have to be determined once you have clarity, and you have to keep pushing for your goals. And it's never easy for no one. But yeah, I made it.
Yeah, that is amazing. Of course, this is a story of success, but we know that unfortunately there are ups and downs, right? The key is not to get and feel defeated when we are in the downs, because it's not just moving country. That is just the beginning, right? We have to deal also with all the emotional part of moving country, with all the cultural shock, and then anything else life offers, right?
Yes.
So in the meantime, you created your life, of course, in Australia. Also, you got married, you have a beautiful son, and so you are stable now in this country, right?
Mm.
Do you want to talk about also the period that I know you had very difficult emotionally with your relationship, actually?
Yeah, so I think it's the first time I'm actually really opening up publicly about it. So yeah, after the nursing, I was really career driven and I'm really ambitious. I understand my finances. I'm good at managing it. So all the good things, but I married, and then, we built a life together. We built a business with almost like 5 trucks and then 4 or 5 trucks. And then, we had properties after properties. We built like 5 properties. And I think within 5-6 years, that was a great success for us, and then we had a child, we bought our first home, we moved into the house. So it was great. But just like any other woman, doesn't matter when I say any other women who actually go through kind of the same pattern, I couldn't believe myself. Like I wasn't going to do it. I was a successful person. I always knew what I wanted, and I was educated. So how could I end up in a relationship like that? But yeah, it was challenging. There was violence, there was infidelity. And I think, when you say, oh, it was my fault, and the embarrassing part, you keep
that
forgetting.
makes it difficult to open up and ask for help. Because as you said, I mean, it cannot happen to me. It happens to different people, right? The troublemakers or people looking for it, right?
That's right.
And that as well.
More than trouble, I always thought, where you can identify, I can always identify a problem, pinpoint it, and I can kind of, work my way through it. But obviously it wasn't the case. I was forgiving out of love, forgiving out of family, forgiving out of what the people are going to say. And, the person was actually coming from a family where his parents, not him, his parents were really, highly valued politically. But long story short, it was a shock when one day, I was running for my life. So then I had to call it quits. And I think because this conversation is about empowerment, I would say the empowerment was, one fine evening when this incident happened, and I was 7 months pregnant. And when it dawned on me, oh my God, instead of this child in my belly, it could be the child in my lap. And even the intention is not there. So I had to protect him.
I think the children then become a big leverage for us, because we open up our eyes. If it's not for us, because we didn't do anything until that point, then children become definitely and the motivation.
Yeah, you can just, sidetrack yourself, and, you don't give yourself as much importance. But, the mama bear do really come out, once you know that you're responsible for this little life. But look, it was really, really hard journey, and the way it impacted me, I was having panic attacks. I was really hyper vigilant, and even though I understood brain, I understood psychology, and I'm the one, I'll pull up the research paper, not just the YouTube. I'll be like, I really want to know what's going on. But even though I understand the psychology of the brain, how it was going to function, how I was going to go through this post-traumatic stress, but I still couldn't believe it, So it's hard journey psychologically, having lack of sleep, couldn't sleep, going around with the knife all night. And I was laughing about it, but because I want to tell people that it's normal, I would never ever have thought that, I'll be able to share my story. But even if it impacts one person, I'm fine with that. And I think more than that, Mara, the hardest part was thinking, oh my God, about the people, about the people. You still have these barriers. You never want to talk about it because you think you don't want people to judge you. But that's where the change happened. Like when you stop caring, when you know you are the only person who's going to stand for yourself, it's a huge change. But again, you have to take your time of healing, and everyone goes through it differently. There is no time frame. But I'm so glad I'm over it. I feel stronger than ever. I have more clarity than ever. and you'll see me turning everything into positive, because that's what I've learned about myself so much, that there's so much more to life. And, you know, I made a huge mistake, and this was probably, you know, something, you know, I needed to face in order to learn and become.
Exactly. I mean, we can always find the positive sides in any difficult situation. Of course, we don't wish on anyone to face difficulties like this, but in your case, I mean, you came out not another person, but the warrior you are always there to be. So in reality, was like a journey to know yourself better. And anyway, in the meantime, you had the responsibility of a little one. So that helped for sure in the process. And we can see you are beautiful, you are strong, your energy, we can feel your energy. So definitely the journey was at a happy ending for the beginning of the rest of your life, right? So this is definitely encouragement and hope for everyone. We all go through difficult times, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel, definitely.
Yes. And, you know, there's that grace as well. You can call it religion, you can call it whatever name you want to give it, Waheguru, God, Allah. But look, there is that grace. If it's keeping you alive, and if you keep pushing, there's always signs for you. I know it's a little bit of spiritual, but I always had these signs, there's nudges, you know, and even if I wanted to ignore them, they kept reappearing. So I knew, you know, I had more purpose on this earth, you know, than that. So yeah.
Well, even as a doctor, in reality, you had the right mindset to be of help and of service. So probably that for others, I mean, so probably that was a push as well. And also you knew that you were capable to do it. Look, I always think, for example, that when we decide, for example, to leave our country, that is not just I go for 6 months touristing. No, you were at the very bottom and then you had to climb up again. So that shows already a big strength and a big purpose and vision. And as you said, if you have a vision and you know where you are going and you have clarity, you'll get there. And definitely it's like that. But we need to ask for help if we need to.
Definitely. And look, I think the difference between those two journeys is when you leave the country, you know, you have the time to contemplate, you have the time to reflect and plan the future. So definitely that was a journey that was planned. So even though there were challenges, even though there were new things I never planned for, but still a major aspect of it was planned. Yes, I made some changes and I jumped ships, etc. But still there was some sort of contemplation and, you know, I had planned for it. But this journey I had to go through, you know, you marry thinking, oh, this is for life, you know, this is how I'm going to go ahead. So I guess the reason and this was unplanned. This was really an unplanned, and it was shock. And even though, you know, there is a build up from small incidents to big incidents, and you keep going through the same things, but it was still unplanned. So it was quite a shock. And I think to any woman who's going through it or who's gone through it and who's wanting to find a way out, I think the major thing that helped me was, you know, there was all these things coming at me. There was debts piling, and I wasn't even sure the house was going to there. I was going to be able to keep my house, and, you know, there were people fighting to take it away.
And I bet you had the panic attacks. I mean, it's totally normal.
Yes, and I'm a person like, you know, want to have a control over everything.
Yeah, okay. The perfectionist in you was really struggling. Yeah.
That's one thing I've learned, that I need to let go of my perfectionist, and that's actually really helped me. But yeah, look, I think the main thing is taking your time, but also reflecting. If it means, you know, you put your son in childcare, and this is really practical examples, because we all have this mom guilt. But look, if you need time for yourself, take it, sit down and reflect. If you need to take time off of work, I know it might not be possible for everyone, but find whatever time you can. If you put your child to sleep and then you're going to spend 2 hours just thinking, meditating, if you're not meditating, like I love meditation and I think it really helps me gain clarity, but whatever works for you, just reflect. And once we start reflecting, everything starts popping up, and then you have the clarity, and then you know which direction you want to go. And once you know, there's just tiny small steps you need to take.
Exactly.
Even 1 step a week or 1 step a month, and that's it. Yeah,
exactly. And the other thing, the other secret is not to rush it, because it's impossible. I mean, no one can rush it and jump directly to the vision, right? So it's a small steps, and during these small steps, we have to be our own priority. Because only, I always say, I mean, only if you have your cup full, you can keep giving. Otherwise, what do you? Frustration, resentment. I mean, it's only negative feelings. So definitely. I mean, I learned, I have to say, quite late, because as women from the South, we tend to give and also forget about ourselves as well. And I felt strongly a loss of identity after my second pregnancy, where I was the mom of, the wife of, and then I said, no, wait a second, there's also me. And then when you start realizing that, really you start the real journey of yourself. I mean, we have just one life. Let's use it.
Definitely. Yeah, life is too short. And I think as soon as you start remembering or reminding yourself that there's only one life and you have no guarantee how long it's going to be, it's quite short. You got to make the most of it. I think it's a very empowering notion. And, it just pushes you to, stuff everything, go for whatever you want. And, it really does help. And also touching on identity, I think we can get so entangled in that. For me, it was like, okay, so I always loved beating challenges. So if you have to have 3 years of an experience to be, for example, a care coordinator, I want to do it in 2 years. If you have to have a postgraduate or a PhD to go into a government job, I want to do it with bachelor's. And I did it because at that time, my identity was so important for me, career-wise, profession-wise. But once, then I also had identity of for belonging to that family who was so important. I had to uphold the political side of it and being mom. But Mara, also, I think there was so much power in letting go of my identity as a clinician, as a nurse. Like now I'm happy to, do trading, and I've resigned from my government job, which is cuckoo. But look, it is so
it's a choice. Free. Any choice is the right one.
Yes, but I guess what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter for me anymore because my identity, I'm going to define how I identify myself. If that means I'm now a better mom, I have more time for my kid, and I'm still putting food on the table, I'm still able to, manage my finances, then I'm okay to be an entrepreneur or unemployed or whatever people might call it. But, you define your identity and not other people. And it does bring you back. You have to actually bring your identity out, and self-care is important.
Yeah. The thing is to destroy these limiting beliefs that keeps us like in chain. Normally you need a disruption, a big disruption. So I always say, I mean, the failure or the big disruption, I don't like to use the word failure. They are definitely learnings, because after disruption, there's creation, and you are from one place to the other and you grow in the meantime. So welcome. I mean, nothing major. What I mean, it's also every day we have things, unexpected events or whatever that push us down, but that doesn't mean that we are defeated. We just learned something and we understood that we have to change maybe route. That's all.
Yeah. And look, that is right. Like, life happens for you and not to you. And to a certain stage, I think, up until that time, you are thinking, why is it happening to me? Why is it happening to me? But once you have that shift in your psychology, it's got to change up here first.
Yeah.
It's never easy. But once you've gone through that journey and you've had that change of mindset, you're like, okay, bring it on. This is happening for me. And, it doesn't matter how disruptive, what rock bottom you hit. And, you will have a moment when it dawns on you, like, no more. And, that's, as you said, then you shed all your limiting beliefs and, you're like kind of reborn, or you have new beliefs.
Exactly. Oh, you go back to what you were meant to be. Definitely. Yeah.
That's right.
And I wanted to ask you, we always ask at the end of our episodes, if there's a word or a quote that can be considered a bit like the base, the foundation of your life, your why, your business, anything.
Yeah, sure. So before we go on to the quote, I also want to say I'm really glad because I've watched so many of your episodes. But look, also, because, we could have touched on how I've turned my finances around, what I'm doing in the business now, what are my future projects in the business. But I think it's very important also that we touch on the personal side of empowerment. And that's what we did today. So I'm quite glad. Look, I did a lot of self-reading, and that's always been me. I love reading books. And as I said, I love pulling out the research papers also. But I did a lot of training as well, and changing my limiting beliefs. So there was a lot of the things, and my words kept changing. But one thing I've kind of told myself now is the one person you need to, first of all, clarity, and then decide what you want. But once you've decided, the one person you need to keep the promise is with yourself. And I think that is very empowering. And then small actionable steps, very small steps, but then be kind to yourself. So then you will find yourself in a circle where you find something, you told yourself, okay, Santosh, I'm going to do this. Right. Well done. This is a small step, just one small step, that's fine. I just wanted to make 500 today or $1,000 or whatever. Yes, I've done it. Great job. You've done very well. Oh, sorry, I couldn't get up. I couldn't go to the gym. Be kind to yourself. So either way, you will then see that, once you change that voice, how you communicate with yourself, everything around you will change, and it will flow into all areas of your life. So really be, one person you got to keep promise is yourself, and then be kind to yourself. So if you can't keep that promise, that's fine. There's another day.
Yeah, I love this because we are always our worst enemies most of the time. And to jump off that mindset is sometimes difficult. So we have to find the ways, and then it becomes a habit to do.
Right.
To be kind to yourself and keep the promise to yourself first. So this was a lovely conversation. Thank you for being with us. I'm sure you are a great inspiration for many of us. Thanks again to be with us all the way from Melbourne. And I just want to remind everyone that Santosh contacts are below in bio, everywhere. I stick them all over my social media and podcast. Thanks again, and see you very soon. Bye.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Mara. Thank you. Bye.